Hello, I'm Annette Young and welcome to the 51%, a show about women reshaping our world. Coming up, in France, some teenagers are being encouraged to take a stand and call out both sexism and harassment. Also, meet farmer Cécile and how more and more women are now entering the most traditional of French sectors. And the Brazilian residential community that's run by women and will not tolerate any form of gender violence. But we begin here in France, where it seems the Me Too movement has even reached the corridors of the nation's high schools. Last December, a group of female students in Pontoise, just north of Paris, decided enough was enough and called on others to step forward and recount their experiences of sexism. As a result, they received a massive number of texts and messages. Owen Barnell has the story.
In their final year of high school, these girls have decided to fight back against sexism, insults and remarks about their physical appearance.
For example, in one lesson, I'm at the front of the class, and a bunch of boys shout out in front of the teacher, "What a huge behind, what a huge ass." And what's more, they really shouted it. It's only in certain classes, not all of them.
It started in primary school. I remember I was in the playground. There was a boy who lifted up my t-shirt and grabbed my breasts.
The girls go to school in Pontoise, just outside Paris. In December, they organised a protest against sexual harassment. It encouraged both teachers and students to take action.
I think women should not be reduced to objects, and they should not be judged on their body or their way of speaking.
Their demonstration has had impact further afield. The pair have received messages from girls in other schools, complaining of similar harassment in many different situations.
We don't talk enough about what's going on at school. You need to find the origins of sexism and tackle it at its roots. We want to show that it happens from an early age, that we, as young people, as college or high school students, are affected by this from a young age.
This type of harassment often occurs in college. Data from the French Education Ministry says that 11% of girls have been on the receiving end of sexist insults. 8% say they have been groped in school. Every year at Jules Verne School in Paris, 3rd and 4th year pupils discuss sexist attitudes in a group session hosted by a specialist association. At this age, the boys often mention what the girls are wearing.
Does this mean that every time a woman wears a skirt or dress, she puts herself at risk?
That's nonsense. When a woman gets dressed up, she does it for herself and no one else.
When a woman passes in front of you in a tight dress, it's provocative.
It attracts attention.
It attracts attention. It is very significant to say that. So, does that mean that a woman who wears a skirt or a seductive outfit would qualify as easy, as available for everyone, just because the person who looks at her is attracted to her? Does that mean that boys are unable to control themselves?
It means that if a girl turns a guy on, then he'll insult her and, well, you get the drift.
These students understand that they can be taken over by desire that can be incredibly strong. But just because we are seduced by someone, we can't grab someone's behind or throw ourselves on top of one another. We have to keep ourselves in check and understand that we live in a society based on mutual consent.
As well as focusing on prevention, every month, the school principal takes a look at problematic cases. No sexist attitudes are tolerated.
There was a young man who pulled down the pants of a girl going up a staircase. Fortunately, her underwear was not removed, but it was incredibly humiliating for the girl, and the boy has been very severely punished.
In 2 years, the atmosphere at the school has considerably improved. The number of sanctions have decreased by 4-fold.
This column, for example, shows the amount of temporary exclusions. Last year there were 32, this year 7. There were 3 permanent exclusions last year. This year there have been none. The results are very encouraging.
The effects are there for all to see. Relations between girls and boys have improved, with the less sexist insults and violent incidents down by 20%.
Now, staying here in France, here's a fact that many of you may not know. In what year did women farmers gain government recognition of their professional status? 2011. Yep, 2011, only 7 years ago. This is 1 in 4 farmers these days is female. Karina Chabot and Aurore Chloe Dupuis went to meet one of the new generation.
Early morning kiss from Lemonade, the cow. She's on her way to get milked, along with the rest of the herd, 110 animals. In the meantime, the Saint-Jean family is getting ready for an action-packed day. Cécile is 29. She's a mother of 2, and she's also a farm manager, in charge of 150 hectares of land.
We have to juggle between activities at the farm, the children, and going in and out of school. Sometimes the days are hectic, sometimes they're not. It depends on how we organize ourselves during the week.
As the sun rises upon Brittany, Cécile heads to work and joins her 3 other associates, her husband and her neighbours on the verge of retirement. They earn the same salary, 1,200 euros a month, and share the tasks around the farm. Cécile is indeed in charge of milking. Her cattle produces more than 2,000 litres of milk a day. That's twice as much as the national average. But her efforts come at a price.
Repeating the same gesture over and over again is hard work. I'm still young, so I'm all right. But for older women who are ending their careers, it's tough to always do the same thing. It's not easy.
Like Cécile, less than a third of farm managers are women. They deal with paperwork, manage accounts, and more importantly, they gained in 2011 the same status as their male counterparts, with equal rights and ownership shares.
It's important for us to have access to that status because my mother, for example, worked on a farm in the 90s, and she wasn't officially recognised as a farm manager. She was simply seen as my father's wife, so she didn't get a pension scheme. She was treated unfairly, even though she worked as hard as me on the farm.
Faced with the pork crisis, Cécile's parents were in too much debt and eventually gave up farming. But that didn't discourage her. She's now helping younger farmers fight for better working conditions.
We're going to a major regional meeting to think about what we could improve, what we could do to keep helping the younger generations set up their business in good conditions.
That day, Cécile met with other farmers, experts and bankers at the Chamber of Agriculture. On the menu, EU funds and France's environmental rules that are more strict than in the rest of Europe. Despite the difficulties, Cécile is determined to tackle all the hurdles in the sector. She recently went to the Agriculture Ministry in Paris, hoping that a new law promised by the government will boost farmers' revenues.
And finally, in a tiny slice of São Paulo in Brazil, a group of women have taken charge. Occupation Hope is a settlement established in 2013 by mothers who were looking for a way to escape both expensive rents and housing shortages. But what makes this community different is one very strict rule. Violence against women will not be tolerated, and anybody found guilty of such behaviour is automatically expelled. Our team on the ground sent us this report.
Perched above Sao Paulo, precarious brick and wooden houses line the hillside. At first glance, Ocupação Esperança looks like any Brazilian favela. But in its alleys, the shops and businesses are almost exclusively run by women, all the way up to the president of the neighborhood association.
Here's your contribution. If it does not please the men, it's their problem, because we have the power.
Dorinalva de Souza is one of the first inhabitants of this district of activists. Originally, several families in need of housing took over the abandoned piece of land, but today it's become a community of over 500 families and is still rapidly expanding.
The daycare is going to be built on this land. Us women decided to make a daycare here.
Her warriors, as she calls them, have found a unique refuge in Brazil.
If we have a neighbour who has a violent husband, we will see to it. We speak with the husband, we make a record of it. If we need to, we expel the husband from the community and we let the woman and her children stay.
Violence, harassment and drugs are banished. Strict rules have been established by Dornalva and her colleagues. Today, they've gathered for a neighborhood meeting closed to men.
It's the first meeting of the year for us women.
We have to be respectful of others and keep the community clean.
There is trash everywhere outside. It's disgusting.
It's not that men are forbidden, but it's nice to be amongst ourselves. We can talk about domestic violence and sex.
In spite of this, Ocupação Esperança remains fragile. Irene, a volunteer with the association, is helping the community launch a court case to legalize the occupation.
Are you coming next Saturday?
It's necessary to mobilize the women and the men.
Hello. In spite of all the social and gender inequalities that persist in society, we managed to make sure that these things don't divide our community. It's became our strength. It unites us and helps us in our fight.
An opinion also shared by the men of the community.
Between women, there's never disagreements, but men fight all the time.
In Brazil's conservative, patriarchal society, considered one of the worst countries for violence against women, Ocupação Esperança, in English, Occupation Hope, lives up to its name.
And that's it for now. You can connect with us via our Facebook page, that's France24.51%, or do send us a tweet at _51%. Thanks for your feedback so far. And yes, please keep those story ideas and suggestions rolling in. So until our next show, bye for now.